Welcome to today's edition of the Rush 24/7 podcast.
Hey, folks, how are you? Have a good weekend? Everybody raring and ready to go. 3 hours broadcast excellence starting right now, right here, the EIB network, and your guiding light, and America's real anchorman, Rush Limbaugh, affectionately known as the all-knowing, all-caring, all-sensing, all-feeling Maha-Rushy. You're at 800-282-2882, the email address lrushbo@eibnet.us. Just as I thought there was no such thing as downtime this past weekend, it was as busy as any day during the week. And let's just get started. Here is sort of an outline of where we're going today. Of course, the Harvey Weinstein situation. Folks, this is big. It's not just about a Hollywood mogul and his misbehavior. As is always the case, it's a teachable moment, and it is filled with life lessons for people about liberalism. And I'm going to tell you where all of this really began. It all began in 1969 at Chappaquiddick, when Ted Kennedy was allowed to get away with manslaughter at all costs. Now, in 1969, modern-era feminism was just being unrolled. And at the time this happened, it really wasn't established yet. It had some high school girls excited and all at Twitter, but that was about it. The real mad dash to the militant era of feminism didn't really get going until 1970. But the Democrat Party, the Kennedy family, going out of their way at all costs to defend Senator Kennedy set the stage for the Democrat Party's glaring hypocrisy. And then we move forward to Bill Clinton in the second term of his presidency with the Monica Lewinsky episode. And once again, after the full era of militant feminism in the modern era had become entrenched into our society, the Democrat Party, defending Bill Clinton at all costs, led by his wife, Hillary Rodham Clinton, is what gave us the ongoing behavior of major prominent Democrats up to and including Harvey Weinstein. Ted Kennedy, you might say, made it all possible. Bill Clinton came along and put an exclamation point behind Ted Kennedy. And now, even with Harvey Weinstein, look at what he thinks he has to do to save himself. Come out as an even more strident leftist. Promise to take out Wayne LaPierre. Promise to take out Trump. Endow $5 million worth of charity work for women's issues and so forth. And it's that simple to buy off the left. In this case, however, time will tell if that will be successful. Weinstein's now been fired from the company he co-founded. But the details of this story and the elements of it as it continues to unfold are once again a gigantic teachable moment. You know what else they are? They're a giant see, I told you so. 25, 30 years of see, I told you so. But I'm telling you, folks, do not discount this. The Democrat Party and the media going out of its way at all costs to defend Bill Clinton sends a signal to every other Democrat heavyweight predator. It sent a signal to virtually every powerful individual on the left that they were not going to be held to account, that excuses would be made and tolerances would be expanded if they remained devoted to the cause or causes. Now, Harvey Weinstein situation, look at what everybody's saying. Well, how everybody knew. Everybody knew for all these years. We've now learned that the New York Times had a story ready to go in 2004 by Sharon Waxman that was going to detail all of this up to 2004. The New York Times killed it. The New York Times killed it, and they're getting kind of creamed here by Sharon Waxman, no longer writing there, who says, you know, it's kind of funny to listen to the New York Times moralize about how the media looked the other way all these years with Harvey Weinstein when they led the league in looking the other way and spiking stories about Weinstein. Saturday Night Live did not talk about Weinstein. They didn't make any jokes about Weinstein. They didn't do a thing about Weinstein. And you know what Lorne Michaels said, the producer of Saturday Night? Well, it's a New York thing. Harvey's a New Yorker. You know, we give our own people a pay. He didn't say that's what he meant. We give our own people a pay. Well, here's another. Trump is a New Yorker, but that's what blows the whole story to smithereens, his whole line of reasoning. There is a series of comparisons being made between Trump and Harvey Weinstein. Another flailing attempt by the left to neutralize the impact of what Weinstein has done. Let me tell you, and there's a couple stories in the stack about this. Trump hasn't done diddly squat compared to Harvey Weinstein. Trump is nowhere near Harvey Weinstein's league. Trump hasn't done anything remotely close to what Harvey Weinstein knowingly did, and for which he was excused for all of these years. Somebody did a survey of a number of years of Oscar ceremony broadcasts, and they found out that over a long period of time, I forget the number of years, but I think it's at least 10, maybe 14 years, in examining acceptance speeches of Oscar winners, Harvey Weinstein was thanked more than God. I mean, he was a thug. He was a pig. He was powerful. He was a bully, and everybody was afraid of him and was sucking up to him and did everything they could to try to make sure Harvey never got mad at them. But all that time, people were seething that he was getting away with it. Nobody had the guts to come out and say it. A couple of women did, but they were ignored. So now the comparisons are on between Trump and Harvey Weinstein, and there aren't any comparisons to Donald Trump and Harvey Weinstein. And yes, they both are New Yorkers, and Saturday Night Live is routinely engaged in trying to destroy Donald Trump. Now we move on to Indianapolis and Mike Pence at the 49er Colt game yesterday. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what pushing back looks like. Get used to this. This is what pushing back looks like. This is what the left not getting away with setting the narrative and determining who can and who can't say anything. This is what it looks like. This is what it looks like when you push back against it. You may find it uncomfortable. You may buy into this. No, gee, I wish the vice president hadn't gone in there and hijacked the Peyton Manning statue. Mike Pence didn't hijack anything. Players in the National Football League have hijacked that business. And what they are doing is causing that business great damage. The players, there's no First Amendment right here. Keep reading media people say, it's incredible. The players are simply exercising their First Amendment right. There's no First Amendment relevant here. In addition to that, you are not free from consequences of exercising your First Amendment rights. If you want to say what you want to say and be with who you want to be with, there are consequences, and you're not immune to those. And furthermore, nobody has to listen to what you say, and nobody has to watch what you do. So when you force your speech or behavior on people who don't want anything to do with it, you don't get the moral high ground. Not anymore. If you do that, you're going to have people walk out of the stadium. You're going to have people turn the games off. You're going to have fans not show up. You're going to have serious ratings problems. You're going to have great, great damage done to that business. And that is exactly what is happening here. Now, the very same media, the very same reporters and pundits who are praising players for kneeling and expressing their free speech views are now blasting Vice President Pence for walking out of the Colts 49er game and for expressing his free speech. They're claiming that what he did was a PR stunt. They're claiming that he and Trump cooked it up. They're claiming that they knew these players were going to kneel, and so they planned to go in there and sit there until the players kneel, and then Pence walks out. The proof for this is that supposedly the Pence media detail was told not to bother coming into the stadium, stay on the bus, that Pence wasn't going to be there very long. It's not Mike Pence that made this possible. It's the players for the San Francisco 49ers, and if any of the Colts were involved, who made this possible. This is what pushing back looks like, folks. This is what refusing to cede the moral high ground to the left looks like. And of course they're going to act like stuck pigs. They're going to react like they've been offended like no one ever has. How dare you take my PR stunt and convert it into your PR stunt? How dare you? And they're coming down on Pence, and they're coming down on Trump. But Pence and Trump are simply being consistent with what they have said from the get-go on all of this. They are not. Pence has children's son in Iraq. Don't forget this either. It was about a year ago. Mike Pence and his wife went to a performance of Hamilton on Broadway. Do you remember this? And during that performance, cast members decided to lecture Mike Pence, the vice president-elect, on the importance of protecting diversity. Pence just smiled, and he was polite, and he took it. He went to enjoy the performance. He wanted to go backstage, congratulate the cast on a job well done, but they mocked him and made fun of him and then lectured him while he's in the audience on the importance of diversity. Well, Pence and Trump are not taking it anymore, and this is what it looks like. For decades now, we have become conditioned to just accept any and all anti-American displays. We're supposed to be tolerant. We're supposed to sit back when they try to put out of business a bakery or a photography shop that refuses to cater, because of religious freedom in the Constitution, a gay wedding. Those businesses are sought, they are targeted, and they are sued. The people that run them are targeted for being put out of business. And we sit around and we just accept it. But we're not sitting around and we're not accepting it anymore. We're supposed to be tolerant, they tell us. So I give Trump and Pence credit for at least pushing back and trying to deprogram us a little, that we don't have to take it. And I don't care if the media gets all upset and exercised the vice president wasted taxpayer money. You want to talk about wasting taxpayer money? How about a silly expenditure of money on a non-existent fact, collusion between Trump and Russia to rig the election, something that did not happen, something for which there is no evidence, and how much money has spent so far and how much of it has been wasted. We never talked about all of the well, they didn't, we did. All the money it took to provide vacations and separate airplanes for the Obamas. And Mrs. Obama taking her own plane when she wanted to leave a day early. The Obamas set a record for the amount of taxpayer dollars spent on vacations. And we were told to just sit there and take it. The president was important. He needed his downtime, recharge the batteries. George W. Bush chopping wood in Texas was never said to need downtime to recharge his batteries. They accused him of not caring about the job, the people of the country, and going down to Crawford, Texas, and wasting time because he was too stupid to know what was right and wrong anyway. You know, it's about wasting money when we had the national debt doubled under 7 years, 8 years of Barack Obama. This is what pushback looks like, ladies and gentlemen. When Mike Pence walks out as a protest, he is engaged in an unprincipled PR stunt, they say. But when players kneel to protest, why, that is principled behavior that you are not permitted to question, and you are not permitted to disagree with, and you are not permitted to comment. Everyday Americans get what's going on here. When hypocrisy is in the news, such as gun confiscation demands by those with bodyguards, for example. Yeah, my friends, all these Hollywood biggies and all these politicians are demanding the confiscation of guns. Even though, by the way, I asked a question last week, Senator Schumer, can you name me a law that would have stopped the shooter in Las Vegas? And Dianne Feinstein has answered, and she's admitted there's not a law. How long is she for the Senate? She's out there saying, you're right. There isn't a law we could pass that would have prevented this. Thank you, Senator Feinstein. And these people demanding confiscation of guns require that their security details be armed. They're different than you. They're better. They are more important. They need armed guards. You don't need your gun. This is one of the reasons, one of the many, why Trump wins. He wins because he's transparent. He's the voice of the people who make the country work, not the voice of the people who claim to do the country's thinking. And I don't mean this exclusively with matters of policy. Trump speaks on behalf of people who have been insulted and bullied and deceived. These NFL protests are not about policy. This is a cultural issue. This is about damaging the National Football League. This is about inflicting as much harm on the NFL as possible, and is wildly succeeding. Millions of people pledge their allegiance to the Constitution and the flag, which represents that allegiance. That allegiance supersedes allegiance to any NFL team or to any cause. There's a strong and binding culture that exists among people who don't live in elitist bubbles. Donald Trump sides with the people because he thinks they're right. There isn't any hidden agenda here. There are no double standards. It's just simply about right and wrong. It's the practical expression of patriotism, and it's being assaulted. It is being impugned. It is being protested. And it goes against the grain of the thinking of the vast majority of the American people. And finally, people are pushing back against this. And the people who are engaged in these protests are acting so righteously offended and indignant that they're not being listened to, that they're not being heard, that what they're asking is not being replied to. Nobody has to listen to you, players. You don't get that right. Nobody has to agree with you. And furthermore, you do not get a pass on consequences when you engage your free speech rights or whatever else you think you happen to be doing. Welcome back, folks. Just getting warmed up, just getting started here at the EIB Network. President Trump has unveiled a new strict 70-point immigration enforcement plan. It calls for a comprehensive rewrite of laws to stiffen border security and the interior, and specifically to cut chain migration. And Trump has pitched it to the Democrats, to Chuck and Nancy. Hey, you guys want to help me out with this immigration bill? The Democrats are ruling it out. The Democrats say that Trump's request for border wall funding and help for the Dreamers, which is another Trump proposal, will not fly. You're not going to get any money for the wall from us. I don't care what you try to bribe us with, say Chuck and Nancy. So immigration firing on all cylinders. And Senator Bob Corker, Tennessee, retiring from the Senate, has finally, once and for all, honestly opened up about the Republican establishment view of Donald Trump and what they think their role is, which basically to nullify Trump, to contain Trump, to maintain our precious current world order. Trump poses the greatest threat. Republicans in the Senate think it's their job to thwart the Trump agenda. Corker said so in frustration. We'll be back. Hi, folks. Welcome back. Your phone calls are going to be part of the program as well. 800-282-2882. And again, we're loaded today. I'm going to do everything I can to get everything I want to talk about in. And there is a lot of it. And I can't do a fourth hour today because I have a newsletter interview after the program today. You should have seen Snurdly. You were thinking about doing one today. I was. And then I realized I have a newsletter interview. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about it because I just got more stuff than I can get to here. Look, the Harvey Weinstein thing. Folks, this is not about hypocrisy. The left never is held accountable on their hypocrisy anyway, no matter how blatant. And this is as blatant an example or case of hypocrisy as you can get. They're trying to compare now Trump to Weinstein. There's a big difference here. Donald Trump talked. Donald Trump talked the talk with some host at NBC coming out of a trailer. And interestingly, Trump was talking about what celebrities like Weinstein could get away with, simply because they're celebrities. But Trump, there's no record of Trump doing any of this. Trump can't hold a candle to Weinstein in this regard. Weinstein walked the walk. All Trump was doing was talking about the very kind of behavior that is permitted when celebrities are involved. But hypocrisy is not, there's plenty of it, but that's not what this is about. What this is about is plain and simple the abuse of women, the mistreatment of women that was ignored and tolerated, and in some quarters laughed at and applauded. Hey, man, great work if you can get it. Hey, Harvey, way to go, bud. Hey, Harvey, way to get away with this. Harvey had his supporters. Harvey had lots of women in Hollywood who owed him a lot, they believed, and they got silent. And they stayed silent. Although Meryl Streep, have you heard about this, Mr. Snerdley? Meryl Streep, one of those who has called Harvey Weinstein God, is now slammed Weinstein's disgraceful behavior. He's finally spoken out. I have it right here, my formerly nicotine statement. Here it is. A lengthy statement released early today. The disgraceful news about Harvey Weinstein has appalled those of us whose work he championed and those whose good and worthy causes he supported. It's not the news that's disgraceful, Miss Streep. It's Weinstein. You note the word of this, the disgraceful news about Harvey. No. The disgraceful Harvey Weinstein. Not the news, Ms. Streep. She said the intrepid women who raised their voices to expose this abuse are our heroes. You ignored them. She goes on to claim she didn't know. She didn't know about this till she first read the Huffing and Puffington Post. And then she made a point of saying, I want to correct something. Not everybody knew, because that was the news on Friday, that everybody knew. She says, no, not everybody knew. Well, we'll give her that if that's what she wants to say. But it's awfully hard to believe. But, folks, this isn't about hypocrisy. This is about the ongoing abuse, serial abuse of women by a prominent Democrat Party fundraiser, bundler, and donor. A very, very powerful person within the Democrat Party, and they knew. And they willingly looked the other way. They willingly went after everybody else that they thought had anything like this going on in their lives. You can name the names, Bill O'Reilly, Roger Ailes, you name it. And these people cannot hold a candle to Harvey Weinstein. And you look at the efforts to destroy them compared to the Democrat Party's overwhelming and Hollywood's overwhelming talent of ignoring Harvey Weinstein and propping it up. And I'm telling you, it all began with Teddy Kennedy, and then it really crystallized with Bill Clinton, because when the party and the media spent every bit of capital they had, went to every length possible to defend and maintain Bill Clinton in office, what's the message that was sent? I'll tell you, folks, here's the thing to learn about this. The left doesn't care about people. The left cares about power. They don't care about people. And yet they own the image of being the only people who do care about people. It's the left that owns this moniker of compassion. And only they have compassion. Conservatives, Republicans are cold-hearted, mean-spirited, racist, sexist, bigot homophobes. And the people on the left are princes, and they respect and they hoist women up, and they sponsor women's causes, and they defend women at all costs against the overreaching behavior of so-called conservative predators, when in fact the predation is heaviest and most intense on the left. That's why the left stayed silent and even lied for Ted Kennedy. It's why Democrats stayed silent and or lied for Bill Clinton. It's why the left mobilized to hide the decline. That's why Democrats would let anyone see the Affordable Care Act before it was crammed down our throats, why they wouldn't let anybody see it. That's why the left stays silent or lies about baby butchers at Planned Parenthood. They care more about power than people. With the left, folks, it's never about people. Look at the people they claim to champion. Look at the groups, look at the victims they claim to be protecting and looking out for. Ask yourself, how is life for people in those groups? Those groups are routinely angry, are they not? They're routinely angry and unhappy and discontent, and they're constantly looking for the Democrat Party to make it better. And how does the Democrat Party make it better? By promising to get even with the people who are responsible for the plight of all the people investing everything in the Democrat Party. For 50 years, African Americans in this country have been complaining and whining about you name it, and the Democrat Party has been promising for 50 years to fix it and get even with the people perpetrating all these evils, and nothing changes. The same complaints, the same misery, the same unhappiness for 50 years. Ditto for Latinos and Hispanics. And what would you say about women now who are investing in the Democrat Party, thinking it's the Democrat Party that looks out for them? The Democrat Party that's going to protect them from these evil conservative Republicans who are out there just waiting to mistreat them and be misogynists and racists and sexists and male chauvinist pigs. It is the Democrat Party. And they're momentarily sorry when they get caught for a few days. Like Bill Clinton told Juanita Broaddrick, put some ice on it. Her split lip after her encounter with him. So no, folks, they don't care about people. They care about power. Harvey Weinstein's unintentional war on hypocrisy. Harvey Weinstein is a metaphor for the entire Democrat Party. Over the past few decades, I think a lot of people have become numb to the left's numerous and storied hypocrisies because they're never held accountable. Hypocrisy never sticks to the left. It's like they have Teflon against it. But every now and then something happens to illuminate the real message of the Democrat Party and the American left. Harvey Weinstein's implosion is a light shining brightly on just who and just what the American left is. To preserve Hollywood's casting couch and other vehicles for Democrats' serial sexual harassments or worse, liberals hijacked feminism to serve as cover. And I really believe this. I think the Democrat Party and liberals hijacked feminism as cover for their own behavior. And it worked like a champ. Ask Bill Clinton. It worked like a champ. Ask Harvey Weinstein, until something happened and he lost his power in Hollywood, which is probably due to losing money. Which, by the way, I pointed out last week. Now, everybody over the weekend hijacked that comment. No credit to me, of course. And they're being praised as brilliant to have figured out why now, even though you knew about it before all of them weighed in. But let's just look from Ted Kennedy to Bill Clinton to Woody Allen, Bill Cosby to Harvey Weinstein, Anthony Weiner to Elliot Spitzer. They all exploited women without consequence because they were card-carrying members of the liberal establishment, which includes the media and Hollywood and Washington. Not only are prominent Democrats guilty of egregious hypocrisy when it comes to feminism, they are equally guilty when it comes to environmentalism. Leftists denounce carbon footprints. They denounce the overabundant use of CO2. They routinely shame people for their lifestyles, and yet produce volcano-sized carbon footprints themselves. On practically every seminal issue, the Democrats mandate, the left mandates a certain behavior for everybody but themselves. They are always exempted from the punitive policies that they want imposed on everybody else. They claim the sea levels are rising. They're apoplectic in public, crying about rising oceans. They shrewdly buy up beachfront property when the cameras aren't looking. They live in the very places they claim are going to be underwater in a number of years. They know the sky isn't falling, and they know the oceans aren't rising. Liberalism is a con game. They have no intention of using the same healthcare system they devised for everybody else. They do everything they can to make sure no law affects them. Affordable healthcare is the kind of stuff they give us. It's neither healthcare nor affordable. It's a sop to their donors. And it turns out they're bullies. Sexual bullies in the workplace. Equal pay? They always demand equal pay for women, equal pay here, equal treatment there. Look at the way they treat women in Hollywood. Equal pay at the Obama White House, that was a joke. Equal pay at the Clinton Crime Family Foundation. We find out that there is no equality in any of these institutions that the left run. There's no equality and there's no safety. Look at Chicago, look at Detroit, look at the places they run. It's a giant con game that liberalism has going. Harvey Weinstein now becomes a metaphor. He's Ted Kennedy. He's Leonardo DiCaprio. He's Bill and Hillary Clinton. He's Bill Cosby. He's the Obamas. He's Elliot Spitzer. Anyway, that's that. But there are other interesting details in this story, which we'll get to. But we'll move on to other things when we get back, folks, because we got to get it all in here. Hang on. Greetings and welcome back. Rush Limbaugh here, the Excellence in Broadcasting Network. Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, said that any player who disrespects the flag will not play for the Dallas Cowboys. Snerdley, you're a Cowboys fan. You agree with that? You do. Steve Ross, who owns the Miami Dolphins, said if you come out, you are standing. Nobody is kneeling. 3 players stayed in the locker room during the national anthem. Now, why would Jerry Jones, the owner of the Dallas Cowboys, say that any player who disrespects the flag will not play for the Cowboys? I have a theory. I think Jerry Jones wants to save his business. You know, while nobody's looking, the NFL is in a world of hurt. They are no longer, according to polling data, the country's national pastime. They are no longer the country's most favorite sport. They're not even in second place now. This has been a monumental decline. And it began before the current player protests began. It began with the sports drive-bys focusing on concussions and making a movie about it and changing the way people watch the game. People watch the NFL now almost in fear that somebody's going to die, get killed. Somebody's going to get so severely maimed. They watch this and they're nervous watching the game. And some people are thinking, you know, maybe they shouldn't. Now you add these protests of the country on top of it. And it's more than the NFL can withstand. Now, the Players Union has been found to have been donating to liberal causes, and liberal activist groups have been found to be supporting the Players Association, George Soros and others. Unbeknownst to anybody, the Players Union has been supporting big-time leftist causes. That's now coming out. That's not going to fly because that's not what people think and want when it comes to professional sports. And Players Union officials are now saying, we're not protecting the flag. We're not protecting the country. Yes, you are. I don't care what you think you're doing. Then what are you doing? How many of you players know exactly why you're kneeling anyway? Is it because you want to remain loyal to Kaepernick, who you think is being sandbagged here by the league? Well, if you're in unison with Kaepernick, you got to go back and listen to what Kaepernick said was the reason he's doing all this. And he's doing it precisely because of the inequality and the bias and the discrimination in this country and the fact that the cops kill people of color and get away with it. If you are in solidarity with Kaepernick, then that's what you're doing. You can't say you're not protesting the flag when you take a knee during the anthem. You can't say you're not protesting the anthem. That's exactly what you're seen as doing. Why else do it? But what you're really doing, what these players are really doing, is attacking the very business that has not mistreated them. The very business that has made them wealthy and gives them opportunity like they would not have anywhere else. And they are summarily attacking and damaging that business. And Jerry Jones isn't going to put up with it. He's going to do what he can to save his business. Now, a lot of these players are mad at Trump. They think Trump has attacked them. They think Trump's attacked their rights. But that's not what is going on. Donald Trump is not the problem. Donald Trump actually was at the head of the line trying to warn the NFL that its business is in trouble if they don't get their arms around this and stop it. By the way, I don't know who else has said this, but I want to go on record right now and say Harvey Weinstein's career is not over. Oh, no, they'll find a way to bring him back in the fold. You watch. Brian Williams still on the air at NBC, is he not? And doesn't matter. Mark my words, you'll see. Having more fun than a human being should be allowed to have. Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman, right here behind a golden EIB microphone. And the fastest 3 hours in media. And a radio program still growing by leaps and bounds. Here's the phone number if you want to be on the program, the 800-282-2882, the email address, lrushmore@eibnet.us. Now, we'll get back to the stuff in Indianapolis, the Mike Pence and the supposed PR stunt. But I love it. I'm just telling you, I love it. It's what pushback looks like. And it's the left isn't used to this. They're used to owning what they define as the moral high ground. When they protest, everybody agrees with them, and you must shut up if you don't. Oh, one thing about you all looked shocked when I told you my opinion that Weinstein will be back at work before too long. This is something that I have learned. Our culture, there is the shame aspect of our culture has also been politicized. What used to, public behavior that was considered immoral or greatly lacking in virtue, really did doom you for the rest of your life. It was a badge or a reputation or image that stayed with you for a long time. But as the culture rotted away and as it was continually attacked, and when it became politicized, and it's tough to pinpoint exactly when that was, then certain behaviors were allowed. And in fact, certain behaviors even became resume enhancements if you were of the right politics. Look at Bill Clinton. Look at Ted Kennedy. Not only did they survive within the Democrat Party, they were God 1 and God 2. And to this day, both remain heralded and highly thought of and role models for many on the left. Bill Clinton I'm sure he doesn't feel any shame. I'm sure Ted Kennedy never felt any shame for any of the things that equaled reprobate status or behavior. But you see, these same standards don't apply. If you're on the right, you will be ruined for behavior that doesn't even come close to, say, Bill Clinton or Harvey Weinstein or Ted Kennedy. You'll be ruined And not only will you be ruined, your family name will be under assault for the rest of that generation's life. The left will not let up. I mean, even in every story about Harvey Weinstein, there are two names that you will not miss that are usually in the first two paragraphs, Roger Ailes and Bill O'Reilly. And they're both there as the first stage in neutralizing the impact of Weinstein and what he's done. And then will come the comparisons. Well, what have Harvey's contributions been? And they will be weighed and valued. And at some point, some women will come forward to say enough is enough. That Harvey and his wife have suffered enough. It's time to move on. No such thing will ever be said about Bill O'Reilly or Roger Ailes, or take your pick, of any other Republican or conservative. And these things, once virtue became politicized, it ceased to exist for the left. There's no requirement for virtue. Virtue is one of these things like morality. It's for fools. It's for idiots. You want to penalize yourself and not have any fun in life? Go right ahead, they say. But we're not playing. We're going to do what we want to do, and we're going to grease the skid so that we get away with it. And they do. You can look at the names of people who, in any sane world, would have their careers destroyed, lives destroyed, reputationally, or in reality, and they all come back, and they all recover, and they just keep going. Now, I mentioned the name Brian Williams. Started, yeah, but that was just lies. Weinstein's behavior doesn't matter what it is. What Brian Williams did, literally making up news, inventing himself as being in the news. When you stop and think of how seriously they take what they do, you couldn't have a greater violation of what. But Brian Williams is back on the air. And there were elements at NBC that did everything they could to save and protect him. Now, you contrast that to anybody in the news business on the right and how they summarily trying to destroy them just for what they think, not for even engaging in any behavior that might be considered improper or wrong. People are destroyed simply for what they believe and what they say if they're on the right. You think the Democrat Party really wants to get rid of Harvey Weinstein's money? They don't, and they haven't. Have you seen the stories? I've got it right here. DNC gives away 10% of Weinstein's donations. They're making a big deal. This is filthy money. They say, we can't keep this. Is sticky. This is gooey. This is evil money. So they're donating it to Planned Parenthood. Or they're recycling and donating it to other left-wing causes. Harvey's money is staying right where it was always intended to be, in the bowels of the Democrat Party, in the prostate of the Democrat Party. Have they elevated sexual arrest to the level of what? No, they're piling on because they're piling on to excuse themselves. They're piling on to give themselves the moral high ground, which will then permit them to keep engaging in that behavior. You don't think this is going to seriously change the left's behavior? I mean, you think they're all of a sudden going to start treating women fairly and equally and not abusing them on the cast? Do you think it's going to change? Hell no, none of that's going to change. Weinstein's going to pay the price for being the fall guy. If somebody decided, you know what, somebody needs to take the fall here and buy us some time, what have you. There's a reason this happened. There's a reason it goes beyond Weinstein being out of money and being out of power, being out of whatever. There's a reason. We don't know what it is, but there's a reason why it happened. There's a reason why the New York Times, after sitting on this story since 2004, decided to run with it. They've been sitting on this story 13 years. And then last week they run with it. We don't know why. We're being told, well, he's out of money. That was my first guess. He's out of money, out of power, and so forth. There's another reason. Don't know what it is. Ask away. You can ask me anything you want, and every answer is going to be, where is Bill Clinton today? Every answer is going to be, where was Ted Kennedy before he died? Go ahead, ask the question. Okay, the question is, do I think the new generation of Hollywood actresses is going to put up with this stuff the way the older generation of Hollywood actresses did? That is a good question. This young generation of millennials is so consumed with a mistaken concept of equality. They think it's sameness. Equality is sameness and so forth. I think the allure of stardom, the allure of fame, as it's seen on Access Hollywood type shows. You got to remember how people see fame. They see on TV, they see red carpets, they read Page 6, TMZ, and to them, these people are having the life every day. They're at a party, they're doing this, everybody's getting laid, everybody wants everybody, everybody's attractive, everybody's beautiful, nobody has any hang-ups, everything's perfect. That's how it's presented. And the lure of getting in that door. I think whoever has the power to let people in and make them stars or whatever, that person, that group, that industry is always going to be able to pretty much have its way with people. And the lure, the allure, the desire for fame is at an all-time high. And the desire for fame for the sake of fame is at an all-time high. And in the Kardashians, people can see that it's possible. What do they do besides have big butts? What do they do? What do they do? They're famous. They throw parties. They have fundraisers. They go to openings. They have a TV show, Living with the Kardashians or Dying with the Kardashians, whatever it is. Everybody wants to do that. The young, impressionable people. So the future, this generation, how they're going to react to it, it's a good question. At some point, there may be some that just refuse to play by these rules. But as far as Weinstein is concerned, you can see it. People on the left always survive this stuff. They just do. They name for me somebody who has been eternally shamed into invisibility, slinking away, living on a deserted island, doesn't want to be seen by anybody because the degree of shame is so high. Anthony Weiner, give me a break. Anthony Weiner is going to become one of the biggest stars when he gets out of jail simply because of what he did, simply because of what he went to jail for. Now, Weiner's a bit player, though. I mean, he never has been superstar status. But he's going to become, he's a curiosity. He's like an exhibit in the zoo. And he's always going to be the exhibit in the zoo. So, and you can look on the right side, on the political right side of the divide here, and you can see person after person after person who were destroyed forever. Look at Elliot Spitzer. Elliot Spitzer, the guy's back. After what he did, he's back. He's got fame. He's got fortune. He's got respect amongst peers on the left. Always works out. Now, there's a story to Fox Business Network here that the Weinstein Company is going to change the name of the company. And once they do that, they're thinking everything's fixed. Get Harvey's name off the company and we're reborn. We got a brand new life. Nobody's going to know who we are, what we are. Nobody's going to associate Harvey with us, except Harvey always will. When Harvey tries to come back, it's going to be the Weinstein Up Yours Company or whatever he decides to call it. And the Democrat Party will welcome him back because he will have done the requisite things. You have to public visits to therapy, public visits here, public groveling, public this, and penance. And Harvey will be allowed to have learned from his mistakes. He will be welcomed back as a new man. He'll shave, no longer that scruffy beard, maybe lose the beer gut, be a brand new guy. And they'll be singing his praises, and you'll be hearing nothing about the great movies he produced and what a shame it would have been if we'd lost Harvey forever. I can almost make book on this. But while this is going, my whole point is this is another teachable moment. This is an opportunity for people to learn who and what the left really is. Just like this stuff happening in the NFL is a great opportunity for people to learn who and what the left really is, and how they will politicize everything in your life if you let them, and take the enjoyment out of everything in your life that you do enjoy. If you let them, that's what will happen. So those are the teachable moments here. Anyway, Bob Corker and Donald Trump. Big feud going on here, with Corker having finally admitted what's really going on, at least among his buddies in the Senate. Veteran Republican establishment figure Senator Bob Corker confirmed to the New York Times that the Republican establishment is focused on corralling Donald Trump and his agenda. In an interview with the reporter Jonathan Martin, Corker said that most Republican senators realize that Trump is a threat to the general world order. Corker said they understand the volatility that we're dealing with and the tremendous amount of work that it takes by people around him to keep him in the middle of the road. After the mild-mannered senator came unglued on Twitter, he told the New York Times he was trying to send a message to the good guys, Rex Tillerson, Secretary of Defense Mattis, White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. Corker said as long as there are people like that around him who are able to talk him down when he gets spun up, calm him down and continue to work with him before a decision gets made, I think we'll be fine. Yesterday, Corker publicly shared the view widely held among Senate Republicans that people around Trump are expected to keep him under control. Corker said, "It's a shame the White House has become an adult daycare center. Someone obviously missed their shift this morning." This after Trump started tweeting on some things. Trump, for his part, says, "I'm not through with Corker." This is going to keep on. Trump really jumped in Corker's chili for the Iran deal. Trump blamed Corker for the deal, did this on Sunday in a series of posts on Twitter that drew a sharp comeback from Corker. Trump said that Corker begged him to endorse him for re-election in Tennessee, and I said no. And so Corker dropped out. So Trump wants you to believe that Corker begged him to endorse him. And since Trump wouldn't, that Corker concluded he couldn't win and so is retiring. Trump wants you to believe that Corker realizes that he can't win without Trump's endorsement. And without it, it makes no sense to run. So Corker is blowing a gasket here, the mild-mannered Corker. And by the way, the Corker bill that related to the Iran deal was a disaster. We talked about it on numerous occasions here. It was a sop to Obama. It was an absolute boneheaded move. That was one of the many things that started alerting Republican voters that Republicans in Washington are not Republicans anymore, or at least not very often. Do you remember how they mocked Mike Pence when he said that he has a rule that he does not go to dinner with a woman without his wife, that he does not have lunch with a woman alone who is not his wife, and with his wife not there? Remember how he was laughed at and mocked, the mainstream media making fun of that and talking about how old-fashioned and so out of touch, and they even said that it was anti-female. They accused Pence of, I forget the term, it wasn't anti-feminist, but they said he was being unfair to women by saying he couldn't go to lunch with a woman who was not his wife, alone, or dinner, or even take a meeting. He couldn't do it. They said that the fact that he doesn't trust women, that should tell you everything you need to know about Mike Pitt. Now, you compare that to what we're learning about the great and the brave and the courageous donor, Harvey Weinstein. And this is my point about virtue. Virtue, real morality is now mocked. It is satirized, and it's even attacked. In the case of Pence, he was accused of making it impossible for women who worked with him to advance by suggesting they could not be trusted. And that's not what he was saying. He was doing this out of respect to his wife. And he knows, by the way, damn well that if such a photo ever emerged, what the drive-by media would do with it. Compare that to the drive-by media wishing they were Bill Clinton. Compare that to Nina Burley saying she would give Clinton a Lewinsky just to thank him for keeping abortion legal. The women in the White House press corps would look at Clinton and then Lewinsky and say, why her? What about me? I didn't say they said that, but by virtue of their behavior, Clinton was treated as a conquering hero, folks, and Mike Pence treated as a joke. So, Snerdley, you just asked me a question. What with the young women of Hollywood no longer put up with Weinstein kind of behavior? Well, I thought I would check into that. And lo and behold, we have it's a 2010 story, and it's from, Pajiba.com, but it's a Hollywood, oriented site. The current new actresses have already folded to Harvey and the Harveys in their world. Now, just stick with me on this, and we're going to get the phones here right after this. Quote from this 2010 article on Harvey. The Harvey girls, capital H, capital G, the Harvey girls are easily spotted. They're all very pretty. They're often in a rather generic sense. Their instant fame and the push behind them comes seemingly out of nowhere and without any justification in terms of resume or skills. So what did I just say? What did I just say about the push for fame and how a guy who can make it happen can do anything? Most obviously, at least as of 2007, so this is 7 years ago, they are clothed exclusively in Marchesa on the red carpet. Marchesa is the clothing line of Harvey's wife. I was asked earlier today if I thought Harvey's wife would tire of all this and split the scene, and I choked on my cookie. I said, I try not to comment on other people's marriages. I mean, no two marriages are the same, so it's risky. But I said to the person asking, there is no way. Why? And I said, well, nobody would know who she is if it weren't for Harvey, including she knows that. So Harvey gets every one of the Harvey girls to wear her clothing line. Georgina Chapman's her name. She's got a clothing line called Marchesa. And all of Harvey's girls were clothed exclusively in Marchesa on the red carpet and in runway shows. So if you're wondering why Harvey Weinstein seems only interested in actresses who dress like fairy princesses from Planet Sugar Plum, it's his wife's fault. So says this story. But most telling, if you're looking at, is the want. These girls, each of them has the look of desperation, of need. They will be famous, they will be stars, and Harvey can make it happen. And so we're talking here about Amy Adams. This is what the story says. Jennifer Lawrence, Gwyneth Paltrow, Blake Lively, Uma Thurman. Some of them are not in your millennial. Some of them still are. But it makes the point that I said, never, ever discount the lure of fame. There's a reason why there's a term called a star maker. You and I have known one. the star makers, I don't want to get too inside baseball, but human nature is human nature. And fame, particularly today in the social media age, it has never been a more desired status. Anyway, back to the phones. I want to get started here. Noblesville, Indiana. Lynn, thank you. Great to hear from you. I'm glad you called.
Well, thank you so much for taking my call, Rush. I just called. Being in Indiana, I have a little bit of a inside track or feeling towards Pence that I think that there's some things that people are forgetting here. First, I don't know how the rest of the world feels or how much history people really understand, but President Trump stood in front of the American people and the world, and he put his hand on a Bible, and he swore to uphold the Constitution. And part of that Constitution is that he is going to provide for the common defense and stand up and defend our nation. And as Commander-in-Chief, who better to lead our country and set the example of standing up for the flag, the men and women who fought for and continue to fight for our country and our flag and the national anthem. I can't think of anybody else who's more qualified and who's more demanded of to do that than Donald Trump and the vice president.
You know, it's an excellent point. While you were speaking, I was reminded of Trump's numerous rallies during the campaign. What was the theme? Do you remember what his theme was?
Well, make America great again.
Right, make America great again. Now, why did that catch on? It's because a lot of people think that America's under attack from within.
Right. We need that. We demand that. And that's why he won, because people are tired of having a leader and a commander-in-chief who is not upholding his constitutional and sworn oath to do that.
Exactly right. In fact, it can be stated in an equally powerful way. Americans have grown tired of presidents and leaders who apologize for the country and who think that America is and has been the problem in the world. And frankly, that was Barack Obama, and it is to this day many in the Democrat Party and on the American left. People are sick of it. They don't think of their country as evil. They don't think of their country as the problem in the world. They think of America as the solution and as the answer to the problems in the world, such as economic, human rights, civil rights. There's no better place on earth, and Americans are sick and tired of having their country derided or ripped. And so you go to Trump on the campaign trail. It wasn't just make America great. It was obvious to anybody listening that he loved America and he was tired of people who didn't, and he was going to restore that love and prominence. And so you're right. This behavior is entirely consistent. If you publicly are going to disrespect the flag and everything associated with it, if you're going to publicly disrespect the national anthem and the people who wear the military uniform, you are going to be pushed back against. And this is the first time that's happened in I don't know how long. There was no pushback during the Bush administration. There, of course, pushback in the Obama administration. The pushback was on part of the American people. But you're right. Trump and Pence are behaving entirely consistent with their message and with their promises. But again, I'm redundant saying this because I imagine some of you are nervous. How many of you wish Pence wouldn't have walked in? I really would. This is what pushback looks like. This is what them not getting their way looks like, folks. This is what you voted for. This is what they not owning the narrative looks like. And they're not just going to be docile while the pushback happens. But this is you can call it a culture war or a series of battles, but this has been coming. It's not going to reform itself, and it's not going to go away. There isn't a magic moment when the left realizes, you know what, we've been wrong about this, and begins remedial behavior. And I gave a speech at the 30th anniversary of the Media Research Center. And what they do at each annual event, they play clips of some of the stupidest, funniest, most outrageous comments members of the media make during the course of the year. And everybody just laughs themselves silly because they are funny. But when I went out there, I reminded everybody, yeah, we're laughing, but folks, this is scary because every one of those people that you just saw and laughed at believes it. They believe it. Laughing at it, we have demonstrated, is not enough to defeat it. These people are going to have to be defeated in the arena of ideas, and this is what it looks like. Why do they have the unopposed opportunity to disrespect the flag, to disrespect the anthem, to disrespect the military, and to attack their own business? Why is any pushback considered a violation of their rights? It's because they are authoritarians. They believe there should not be any opposition to them ever on anything. They aren't prepared for it, and they are intolerant of it. So they squeal like stuck pigs, and they start talking about things they can't possibly understand. Here, grab sound bites 9 and 10. What we have here first is a media montage of the media saying the Pence walkout was a stunt.
Vice President Pence sparking a firestorm. Was it a political stunt?
How much in taxpayer money was wasted on this stunt?
An expensive political stunt.
This political stunt.
A political stunt.
Was this all just a political stunt?
Of course it was a political stunt.
You've got now the president, the vice president, pulling off a stunt to oppose a stunt, protesting a protest.
This was a $250,000 publicity stunt?
Just a big publicity stunt.
A pre-planned publicity stunt.
What the vice president did here, was this a stunt?
This seems like a PR stunt.
This whole stage publicity stunt.
Sending the vice president to the game was a pre-planned stunt.
All those people, 95, there's a couple players in there, but all these are media. These are media people. They're not reporting what happened. They're telling you what they think of it. And they think it was a stunt. But what the players are doing, that's not a stunt. No way. That is a serious protest. We are protesting the abuse of our brothers by cops in America. We are protesting the racism and the bigotry. We are protesting. But we're not protesting the flag. Yes, you are. But what they're doing is not a stunt, you see. Any response to it is a stunt. You're not allowed to respond to it. When they put a bakery out of business or a photo shop out of business, that's not a stunt. That is justice as far as they're concerned. If you defend the bakery or the photo shop, you also are a Christian bigot. Now, here is the player, 49ers player Eric Reed, who joined Pooperdink, Kaepernick, when he first publicly took the knee as a member of the San Francisco 49ers. He is a player yesterday afternoon in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium. And this is what he said of the vice president.
This looks like a PR stunt to me. He knew our team has had the most players protests. He knew that we were probably going to do it again. And so this is what systemic oppression looks like. A man with power comes to the game, tweets a couple of things out, and leaves the game with an attempt to thwart our efforts.
You see? So first place, it's a publicity stunt. Then it's systemic oppression. He thinks that's oppression? The vice president tweeting and leaving? That's oppression? A man with power comes to the game, tweets a couple things out, and leaves the game with an attempt to thwart our effort. You see? You dare not try to thwart their efforts. You dare not try to persuade anybody their efforts are not correct, right, or what have you. That is systemic oppression. It's not oppression. Oppression? Are you kidding me? Did it stop you from doing what you wanted to do? No. It highlighted what you're doing is foolish. It's what pushback looks like, folks. That's it. Okay, I got to go. Quick timeout. Back with much more after this. Welcome back on the cutting edge. El Rushbo behind the golden EIB microphone. On our fourth hour last week, we have made the news. Apparently some drive-bys actually listened to it or heard about it. And both of them are at CNN. So up first, I want to go back and play the segment from, and many of you haven't heard this because this was exclusive to subscribers in our fourth hour last week. What day was that? Thursday? That we did the fourth hour Wednesday or Thursday last week? Which day was it? It doesn't really matter, but we did an hour and a half commercial free, and part of what I said was this. It's soundbite number 2, Mr. Broadcast Engineer, and here we go. The media loves to assign mythical power status to Republican or conservative figures to explain why Republican voters do what they do. And for a long time, it was me. I was considered a Pied Piper Svengali. You are my numbed robots. You have no idea what to think or what to do until I told you. It's a way for the media and the left and Democrats to denigrate and impugn you. Well, now that person is Bannon. And they're saying that Bannon is the brains, Bannon is the Svengali, Bannon is the great influence. You people don't know what you're doing. You never have known what you're doing. But Bannon's got you doing what he wants to do. And I don't think there's ever been anybody with that kind of, except maybe Reagan or Trump himself. I don't think you all are brain dead. I don't think you're unable to make up your own minds. It's just the exact opposite. I think what Bannon is doing, and I don't know whether he's doing it on purpose, he's a smart guy. I think what Bannon is doing is slowly but surely taking over the role of the Republican Party. And people joining Bannon are the Republican Party is obviously not with Trump on balance. You have some in the House who are, but the Republican Party is on balance not with Trump. Bannon is attempting to put together a group of people who call themselves Republican. By running around and finding candidates to primary against incumbents and so forth, Bannon is doing this. And I made the point that I think that what Bannon's actually doing is filling a vacuum. The Republican Party has ceased operating as an entity that wants to win in Washington. They certainly don't want to win with Trump's agenda. And Bannon is now running around finding candidates who will run as Republicans that will advance that agenda. Well, somebody at CNN heard this. Because this morning on Newsroom, Poppy Harlow spoke with somebody from the Daily Beast, Matt Lewis. She said every single Republican senator up for re-election in the midterms is at risk now, except for Ted Cruz. CNN is reporting a source familiar with Steve Bannon saying nobody is safe.
If you're a Republican, it's bizarre. If Bannon goes after all of these challenger seats, if he only flips 2 or 3, he wins. And the message is going to be sent, you better get in line with my agenda, the Breitbart agenda, unless you want us coming for you next.
In the words of Rush Limbaugh last week, Bannon is, quote, taking over the role of the Republican Party.
This afternoon, Dana Bash, CNN.
I want to play for you something that Rush Limbaugh has said recently about Bannon and the role he has in the GOP.
I think what Bannon is doing is slowly but surely taking over the role of the Republican Party. But the Republican Party is on balance not with Trump. Bannon is attempting to put together a group of people who call themselves Republican.
This is a really important point, and it kind of circles back to where we started the show about Corker and other Republican senators who never really wanted Trump to begin with. The cat's out of the bag now.
Thank you. So they listen to the fourth hour. They don't listen to the 3, but they listen to the 4th and the 5th. Back after this. Just got a flash that the ratings Sunday Night Football were down again last night. I don't know. The word slipped is in the headline. That may not be a major drop. Anyway, we have a brief time out here at the top. We're going to come back and be racing through things, folks, so just buckle up and hang on. Greetings and welcome back. It's great to have you. Rush Limbaugh here on the cutting edge of societal evolution. And I can already tell you we're going to be doing a 4th hour this week. Just to get stuff in from today that I'm not going to have time to get in. But we're going to get it. I can't do it today because I got to do a newsletter interview after the program. I'll be talking to Professor Hazlett, my old telecom expert buddy from Sacramento. And telecom issues, cellular companies, the internet, net neutrality, all that has become his area of expertise. And he has written a book. In fact, I have it back here. You have a picture of it there, Brian, that you can switch to. The Political Spectrum, the tumultuous liberation of wireless technology from Herbert Hoover to the smartphone. And one of the points he makes is that if we had net neutrality 10 years ago, like it is being advocated for today, it is likely the iPhone could not have been invented and manufactured. It would have been in violation of rules that are desired to be implemented today. So, this topic is one of these topics that has its own language that is very exclusionary, like economics lingo is, designed to keep you from understanding what's being talked about. Professor Hazlett writes about this in layman's lingo, and much of it is fascinating. So that's who I'll be talking to. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, climate change is a big issue on this program. It has been for the entirety of this program. This whole climate change started as actually part of the animal rights movement, if you want to know the truth. It started with such things as Earth First and Spotted Owl. All of those issues were tied to climate and environment. They ended up being mixed and melded as time has gone on. But that's for as long as these people have been attempting to deter and stop progress in America, I have been on the case. Now, one of the things that's being touted today, and has been touted for a long time, is clean, renewable energy. And one of the elements of clean, renewable, sustainable, you have to use that word. If you use that word right now, you will own many millennials. That is a word that's very important to them. Sustainability. Remember, millennials, 18 to 34-year-olds, have been raised with the idea the planet will not support human life by the time they reach 60. Don't smirk. They are told this. I have been astounded to discover that many of them believe this. Many leftist millennials, in journalism particularly, my tech blog buddies or wherever, they really believe it. This is how they grew up on Captain Planet, the Ted Turner Saturday morning cartoon where corporations were destroying the world. And they've bought all of this. And so anything that will make the planet habitable, they support fully. And sustainability, whatever it is, sustainable environmental policies, sustainable economic policies, whatever it is, if the proponents say it's sustainable, that's half the battle in persuading the left. And one of the elements of this is the electric car. And the electric car has a very powerful character who has achieved all-world star status. His name is Elon Musk. And people who believe in climate change, sustainability, believe Elon Musk is the savior of the human race. He owns Tesla, SpaceX, the rocket company. And he believes that we're going to have manned mission to Mars to be able to colonize and save people from having to die on Earth. And there are people who believe this. Even though, ladies and gentlemen, we do not have a propulsion system yet that would get anybody to Mars and back. It just doesn't exist. In fact, Musk is building a rocket that he claims will be used to get people to Mars, and it's about the same size as the Saturn V rocket that was used to launch astronauts to the moon. But ostensibly it's 10 times more powerful than the Saturn V was, but it doesn't exist yet. Anyway, all of that is a pipe dream, but yet people believe it. The same thing with the electric car. The electric car is to me, one of the great contradictions and ironies. It is nowhere near clean energy. In order for electric cars to operate, evil coal has to be used to provide the electricity to charge them. And coal, as you know, is hated and despised by the sustainable, clean, renewable energy crowd. They hate it, and they want to wipe it out. They want to get rid of it because it's ooey, it's filthy, it's ugh, it's black and sooty, and it just ugh, and they want to get rid of it. So I ran across an absolutely fantastic post yesterday on the Powerline blog by Stephen Hayward. He's a Reagan biographer, a well-known media raconteur. He's an academic, he's a professor, he's a lecturer. And he, like me, is on the case of these phony baloney, plastic banana, good time rock and rollers in the so-called Save the Planet madcap militant environmentalist movement. And he ran across a story, and I saw last week too, the state of California is going to ban gasoline-powered cars by the year 2040. Which is 23 years from now. They are going to ban gasoline-powered cars. This is after they implement state-run single-payer health care that will triple their existing budget. And Stephen Hayward writes, I certainly hope California follows through and tries this. If nothing else, it'll provide wonderful black market opportunities. Think of all the meth labs that'll convert to mini refineries, not to mention the smuggling, because it's impossible. It's impossible to get rid of gasoline-powered cars by the year 2040. It's simply undoable. And I want to tell you why, and it's a great post for detailing this. Such a scheme as California's of getting rid of the gasoline-powered cars by 2040, assumes the widespread availability of electric cars. I mean, if you can't buy a gasoline car, you're going to have to buy some car. And so it's assumed that the electric car is going to be widely plentiful, widely available, and very affordable. None of which is true now. Tesla can't make anywhere near enough to satisfy the demand, and they couldn't make any if there weren't subsidies. And they couldn't run if it weren't for coal. But that's not even half the story. Has anyone considered how to supply the massive amount of electricity to charge 25 or 30 million electric cars in California? It's not just the total amount of electricity, but also transmission and fast charging capacity that'll need to be built at our current filling stations. We're going to get rid of filling stations, replace them with charging stations. A Canadian engineer has walked through the mathematics of all this and concludes that to match the energy equivalent of a typical gasoline service station, filling station today, an electric charging station would have to have 30 megawatts of capacity. Now, 30 megawatts of capacity is equivalent to the electricity use of 20,000 homes. So you have your average gas station in California, which is going to go because gasoline-powered cars aren't going to be legal. You have to replace them with fill-up stations for electric cars, which are charging stations. You're going to have such powerful charging stations, 30 megawatts per gas station. In other words, each charging station will have to have enough electricity to fully provide power for 20,000 homes. Now, it goes on. Factoring in the aforementioned credit card transaction and the washing of windshields that might extend gasoline refueling to 5 minutes, it would still require 650,000 watt chargers for a roadside station to service the 2,000 cars that those gas pumps could service in a busy 12-hour period. So let me run the numbers in a different way. You have your average gas station in California. The numbers have been run here. 2,000 cars stop in a day to fill up. The equivalent of that in electricity, 650,000 watt chargers at each station. And that's a conservative estimate, that would require $24 million just to buy the chargers. So whoever owned the service station, the filling station, would have to spend $24 million to provide 50,000 watts of electricity every 12 hours to fill up or fully charge 2,000 cars. But that's not all. They would also need 30 megawatts of power. Now, for those thinking that that's a hell of a lot of electricity, you're right. 30 megawatts, for perspective, is enough to power about 20,000 homes. In other words, powering these new charging stations of the future will require about the same amount of electricity as a city of 75,000 people. Oh, and by the way, all of that electricity, unlike off-hour home recharging, happens during peak usage daylight hours. That's when people go to the gas station. You couldn't afford to have all of this in every home. In other words, all of that extra power, at least for intra-city travel, will have to come from new sources. We're getting rid of gasoline, and we do not have the electricity generating capability today to replace it. In California is the example here. So, the existing ability to generate electricity for people in California does not include the ability to charge all of the cars that will need charging, because every legal car on the road will be electric and need to be charged. So brand new power plants will have to be built at the most optimistic prices posited for the future cost of solar panels. That's about $1 a watt. Another $30 million per charging station. If you want to go the windmill route, you'll need 10 of those at each station, each costing roughly $4 million. And just as further reminder, all of this is for each and every roadside station. The point is, it isn't possible. And this story doesn't even mention the use of coal to provide all this electricity, which people who think they're engaging in renewable, clean energy don't even stop to think that all this so-called renewable clean energy is generated by a product they literally despise and are trying to get rid of. So the point is, it's not possible. It simply isn't possible. It's also not possible that even in 23 years, we will not have the capacity to manufacture enough electric cars that people want to replace the gasoline-powered engine in California. Holman Jenkins had a column in the Wall Street Journal over the weekend. Let me read this little segment to you. Fiat admits to losing $20,000 on every electric car it sells in Europe. General Motors admits to losing $9,000 on every Chevrolet Bolt that it sells. Even Tesla is partly sustained by selling zero emissions credits to conventional car companies that actually make money, unlike Tesla. Synthesize all of this down, and it simply isn't possible. It would not be clean by their current definitions, and it certainly wouldn't be renewable. It would require massive new power plants. It would require $24 to $30 million investment for each existing gas station in California to convert to a charging station. Each charging station would need the ability to power 20,000 homes. Well, that power is already being used to power those 20,000. You're going to have to manufacture brand new power plants. And let's see how that goes with the environmentalist wackos and their environmental action reports trying to delay your structure building by 10 or 15 years. So you see, it isn't sustainable. It isn't even doable. And even if it were doable, the cost is absolutely stupid. There simply isn't anything that is available to humanity in this current era that comes anywhere close to the efficiency and the power derived from the internal combustion engine fueled by fossil fuels. There's nothing. There's nothing even close. And let's talk about making every airplane electric. You couldn't get one off the ground. You couldn't get a jet off the ground. You couldn't get a cargo jet off the ground. And let's talk about, if we're going to ban electric cars, what about giant semi-trailer trucks? Those giant Peterbilts, what are we going to power them with? It's not possible. And yet there are people seriously pursuing this. And they're getting votes, knowing full well it isn't possible. It's simply yet another pipe dream brought to you by the left, lying to your face about the supposed problems of today which don't exist and the magical solutions for tomorrow which will never exist. Back in a moment. And back to the phones we go. It's going to be our second call of the day. Nancy, Northville, Michigan. Great to have you. How are you doing?
Good. Thank you very much. But first of all, I'd like to say to my family or friends that are listening and are driving, pull off to the side of the road because the last time my daughter almost got in an accident when she heard my voice on the radio.
Oh, we can't have that. Nothing bad ever happens when this program's on, so that we can't have that.
Well, I called and because I was reminded of when David Letterman's indiscretions were revealed. Mm-hmm. The hypocrisy of the media and women specifically, because when he came back after a short vacation, he not only was welcomed, but he got a standing ovation, and I'm sure at least half of that audience were women. And
so how do you explain that?
Stupidity. I was appalled. And I've never watched him. But
wait,
he's not on now.
No, there's reason beyond stupidity for this. I mean, I remember the episode. He didn't reveal it. Somebody ratted him out, and it ended up being very public. And found he was cheating on somebody, cheating his wife, cheating with this, that, kids involved, all just typical reprobate behavior. He's the guy, by the way, who was selected to introduce an honor Peyton Manning yesterday as his statue was unveiled before the game in Indianapolis, because Letterman is from Indianapolis, so he was given that high honor.
Right. Well,
there's no shame. There's no. I'll tell you. I'll answer the question because time is dwindling. He was applauded because he survived it. He was applauded because CBS didn't do anything to him about it. He did not suffer any punishment. And he was appropriately. Letterman has down pat how to act embarrassed and humble and caught and dumb and stupid and all that. And he prostrated himself. They all, oh, he's so sad. He's so sad. He's such a funny guy. We love this hero worship. That's what it was. Rush Limbaugh serving humanity simply by my presence on the scene. Let me ask you a question. Do you think that HBO will ever make a movie about Harvey Weinstein the way they did about Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas? Remember, HBO did a movie on Clarence Thomas and Anita Hill just 18 months ago, 2 years ago. You know why they did it? They did it because it happened back in 1991, 99. They had to remind the millennial generation what a rotten SOB Clarence Thomas is. They weren't born or paying attention when that happened. So they did a movie to tell everybody today who wasn't born yet what a serial abuser Clarence Thomas was and how virtuous Anita Hill was. Now, do you think that HBO in 25 years will do a movie highlighting what a reprobate pig Harvey Weinstein was so that the new generation of Hollywood moguls will remember or know? No way, Jose. What'll happen is if they do a movie, it will be to herald Harvey Weinstein and his comeback and how he overcame personal demons. And with therapy and the love of a devoted community from Hollywood, was able to fight back and reclaim his seat in the executive suite at the Weinstein Company. That's how they'll do it. And this is why I say there will not be any permanent damage to Harvey Weinstein. Mark my words, because there's always going to be some payoff to kissing up to the guy. Somewhere in that demented world, it will be the case. Here's Scott in Worcester, Massachusetts. Hey, Scott, glad you called.
Hello, Mr. Limbaugh. Jerry Jones absolutely did the right thing to demand that his Dallas Cowboys stand for the national anthem. On the contrary, Robert Kraft, who owns the New England Patriots, is an absolute disgrace and a coward for not demanding that his Patriots stand for the national anthem, and that includes the great Tom Brady, who's not so great as far as I'm concerned. And, you know, what can you expect from Robert
Wait, hold on. You need to clue me in on what the Patriots are doing. I know, aren't they all linking arms and with Brady?
Yes, they are. And it's not right. And Robert Kraft and Tom Brady and Bill Belichick don't have any respect for our military. But that doesn't surprise me.
No, wait a minute. I happen to know that's not true.
Well, it's true in the sense that Robert Kraft should have come out a lot sooner than he did, and he didn't do it because a lot of his players are black, and he's afraid he'll have a mutiny on his hands.
Well, every owner is worried about. Every owner's scared to death with this thing. They don't know which side to fall down on, and they're judging that there's less risk siding with the players. What if they side anti-players and players? Okay, Mr. Kraft, we're not showing up Sunday, no game. What does he do? What does he do then?
I look at the track record. In other words, I don't Robert Kraft doesn't have any character concerning the 2007 Spygate scandal and the 2015 Deflategate scandal, and he's become a billionaire on the backs of his moronic and so-called Patriots Nation fans who buy his sweatshirts and sweatpants and Tom Brady toilet seats. But look. You know, what can you expect? I mean...
Wait a minute. Can you buy a Tom Brady toilet seat?
Yeah, they have all kinds of things. Anything you can imagine for these dummies to buy. And, you know, there's a double standard, Mr. Limbaugh, in this sense, that Kraft doesn't want his players to stand for the national anthem, but Robert Kraft is a fervent Zionist, and he owns a stadium in Israel. But you better believe that he would demand that his players stand for the Israeli national anthem. So, as far as I'm concerned,
I haven't spoken with Mr. Kraft at all during this controversy, but I got to know Mr. Kraft and his late wife rather well, and he's not the person you describe here. I haven't spoken to him during this controversy, but I know all of these owners are when it started. Look, I think the NFL totally misjudges who its audience is, who its fans are. I don't think there's any mistake about this. I think the NFL doesn't. Well, if you look at who the primary advertisers are in the NFL, you'll know who the bulk of the audience is that spends money on the game, either going or paying to watch it or buying memorabilia, like you said. But I think the NFL is like many corporations in this country who have fallen prey to believing the media they see each and every day. And if they have, then they believe that the heart of America is on the left, and that traditional American virtues are now in the minority, and that we are an advanced, hipper culture as reported by the media. And the majority of Americans agree that the cops are wantonly murdering African Americans, and that a majority of Americans agree with so many of the other cultural rots that are taking place. I think they largely believe this. And they're mistaken about it. Like the Democrat Party believes its own polls. They still can't get over the fact that Hillary Clinton lost because their polls lied to them. Nate Silver lied to them. Their big data analysts lied to them. And they're still not in touch with America. They do not know the heart of America. And I don't think the NFL does either. Now, individual owners are different. There's 7 or 8 of them that know exactly who the audience is. Jerry Jones is one. It's obvious, but these guys are operating from the get-go on this story from a position of fear, and the fact that 75% of the players in the league are African American, and that's who's protesting. They feel compelled to side with their players. They want to win. Players feeling content, unified, happy is all part of winning. And they think it's necessary to go with the flow. And so what their players are into and doing, that's what the owners are going to be seen publicly as also being into, because it's unity in the clubhouse. It prevents chances for disruption and disunity, mutiny, what have you. This is really a tough time for them. Much of it they've brought on themselves. And it would be so easy to fix this. But there doesn't seem to be, aside from a few owners, and I don't know of anybody in the league office who is prepared to deal with this the way it must be. This league is being harmed dramatically and in a major way by the people playing the game. The people playing the game are inflicting incredible damage to the business and the product. That's a tough thing to admit, probably. And for them, they probably think it's a dangerous place to go and a position to occupy. Look, I'd love to continue on this, but I'm way long. I've got to take a break. We'll be back here mere moments. Take a listen to me on this program last Tuesday. What law that we do not have that you could enact that would have prevented this guy from getting his arsenal, Senator Schumer? That really is the question. There isn't a magic law you have out there. We have 59 people dead. We have laws against murder. People still get killed in America. Not even laws against murder stop it from happening. What law could you come up with here that would, quote, prevent guns, especially the most dangerous guns, from falling into the wrong hands? Well, F. Chuck Todd posed that very question to Senator Feinstein yesterday on Meet the Depressed.
Give me the slate of laws that if you could wave your wand and have enacted that could have prevented Vegas.
Well, I don't know. I would have to take a good look at that and really study it. I'm not sure there is any set of laws that could have prevented it.
Well, then, what are you all talking about when you want new gun control laws? I told you. Dianne Feinstein, she's skating on thin ice with this party on a couple of matters now. Investigators reportedly believe the Las Vegas gunman had an undiagnosed mental illness. You think? Really, this generated a news story? Have a wonderful rest of the day, folks. See you right back here tomorrow.